from the USCCB, and Deacon Pierce Murphy, a deacon of this diocese and the Archdiocese of Seattle, will be with us, and they'll be discussing family work and citizenship from the Salt and Light document. So please, welcome them.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our workshop is a big topic, and one of the things I'm most excited about of this workshop is that I got to meet over the phone and work with Pierce on this. So we're going to carve out a piece of this, and I wanted to we're going to start with Pope Francis' quote that I'm going to read, hopefully slowly enough since we're not big enough on the screen that you can engage with it. So this is from a speech that Pope Francis gave in September of 2013. Accompanying on its own is not enough. It is not enough to offer someone a sandwich unless it is accompanied by the possibility of learning how to stand on one's own 2 feet. Charity that leaves the poor person as he is not sufficient. True mercy, the mercy God gives to us and teaches us, demands justice. It demands that the poor find a way to be poor no longer. It asks us, the church, the city of Rome, it asks the institutions to ensure that no one ever again stand in need of a soup kitchen, of makeshift lodgings, of a service of legal assistance, in order to have his legitimate right recognized to live, to work, to be fully a person. So I'd like to start with a story. The landscape that Pierce and I are going to cover has individual people with emergency short-term needs. And it also has the systemic causes of things that happen that affect huge groups of people. And the story is connected to the recent ceremony, recognition by the Church, of Blessed Oscar Romero. And many of you probably are familiar with his story. But what I want to lift up is that when Oscar Romero was installed as Archbishop, he was aware of what was going on with the government, with the church, with the repression, with the increasing number of murders of civilians, of even mass murders that happened. And he knew that many of his priests were involved in advocating on behalf of the people. But when he was installed as Archbishop, he did not see his role as lifting up his voice in a high-profile way regarding those very divisive and complex issues until the murder of one of his best friends, Father Rutilio Grande. And when Father Grande was murdered, the things that Archbishop Romero already knew came into a completely different focus. And he felt called to lift up his voice in a very high-profile way to condemn the killings that were going on and had been going on. And as we know, violence still continues in El Salvador. Many of the people who belong to my parish are from El Salvador. And in the back of our church right now, we have a huge display about Blessed Oscar Romero. And in fact, the homilies on that weekend for our Spanish masses were given by people who knew Oscar Romero. And I wish those homilies could also have been done at our English and French masses. But the transformation of Oscar Romero had to do with an encounter, with a relationship with a specific person. So what Pierce and I are hoping that you will take away at the end of this workshop is, number one, the understanding that as leaders in your parishes, in your dioceses, that you call people to an understanding of encounter, of seeing the face of Jesus, that includes both working with people who have emergency short-term needs and working with people in a way that involves advocacy and addressing the systemic causes, the access to problems. So it's kind of, give a person a fish, teach a person to fish, and make sure they have access to the fishing equipment in the pond, right? It covers that entire landscape. And then we also hope at the end of the workshop that you will appreciate the possibility that you have people in your parish, people in the diocese, who have experiences that really speak to this complete landscape of the both and, the short term and the systemic, and that you can use that resource, those experience of those people, and we'll talk about that more a little later. And now I'm going to hand off to Pierce.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so great to be here. It's weird. This is home. This is the parish where we lived for 23 years until last year, and where 3 of our children were baptized and received first sacraments. And so it's still home. So when I saw Bishop Peter's here, when I saw Bishop the other night, I said, I'm one of your deacons. Somebody asked me, are you going to get incarnated in Seattle? I said, no. I'm a deacon in the Diocese of Boise, always will be. I do have faculties in the Archdiocese of Seattle, and I'm assigned to a very unique parish there, Christ Our Hope, which is trying to put into action what we're going to be talking about. It was created 6 years ago by Archbishop Brunette, the previous Archbishop, to meet it's a personal parish, so it doesn't have geographic boundaries. It's specifically to meet the needs of people that live, work, recreate, find themselves homeless in, shop in, are there on cruise ships in downtown Seattle. It's just a block and a half from Pike Place Market, in the ground floor of a high-rise, low-income housing unit owned by Catholic Housing Services. It's a unique parish. Our liturgies are very interesting with a wide variety of people. And the motto of the parish is all are welcome. So I wanted to tell you a story to begin. I love stories, and the older I get, the more stories I learn and the more stories I forget. But I do know that stories teach so much more than bullet points. And so I want to tell you 3 stories today. The first one now. This is a story of Judge John Mitchell, which several of you in the room know, because John is a parishioner, Pius, and St. Thomas. I'm not sure which parish he's in, but both of them, I think. He's a district judge, which in Idaho means he hears felony cases, as well as the higher level civil suits. But he told me, when I talked with John on the phone a few weeks ago, that 80% of his cases are criminal cases. And in 2001, when he was appointed district judge for the first time, he knew that a lot of people that would be coming in front of him with felony cases were dealing with mental health problems. He just wasn't prepared for the extent of it. How many, how pervasive, how difficult, and how they were cycling through over and over again from the court to the prison, to the street, to the court, to the prison. And he was overwhelmed with it, trying in each case to find the appropriate sentence and what have you to meet the needs of that individual. But he just felt so frustrated. He was doing the best he could as each defendant came in front of him for sentencing, but it wasn't solving the problem. He just felt like he said to me, most of the people that he was seeing were the victims of early trauma in their lives. And they were just being re-traumatized over and over again as he sent them to prison. So in 2003, his probation officer, he believes now prompted by the Holy Spirit, brought to him this unique idea of a mental health court that had just been tried in Idaho Falls. And his probation officer said, I think this addresses the problem that we're seeing here. And so they did a lot of research and study, and a year later, in 2004, they created the state's second mental health court, which diverts low-level felony offenders who have diagnosed mental health problems, diverts them out of prison into a highly structured, highly supportive, consequence-based process to get them to the point where they no longer will be offending. And as John told me, that as they developed this, and over the years since 2004, as they've been developing in the last 11 years, what they have found is that not only does this solve individual problems for each defendant, and their recidivism rate is very low, but that it's been creating structures that are supportive and enable not only those defendants, but other people in the community to get the services and the help that they need. And it's saving, it's cost $50,000 a year to put someone in prison. And the mental health court is $18,000 a year. And then after about a year and a half, they're done. They're through the process, and hopefully they don't re-offend. What John told me, this was quite a moving conversation I had with him. What John told me is that the most rewarding part of his work as a judge is the 4 to 5 hours he spends a week in the mental health court. And this is 4 to 5 hours in addition to his regular docket. He gets no release time, if you will, no extra time, no reduced number of cases. He handles the same load as all the other judges, 4 to 5 hours a week on top of that. He also said that there's been a community that's been created around this, with the probation officers and the prosecutor who works on it, and mental health treatment people, a team or community is the word he used, that's supportive, and that he now considers kind of part of his faith community in a way. He says, I see Christ in each one of these defendants that comes in front of me. And I am able to model Christ to them in a way that I don't with any other defendant. He said, I'm actually able, in the context of the mental health court, to share my faith with them at times when it's appropriate. He said, I see with the men and the women who come in front of me as they go through their process, he says, I see every week the crucifixion, the passion, and the resurrection. Right there. Right there. I should share with you that John's curseisto, how you say it, and an active member of a Fourth Day group, and he was before he became a judge, and he believes very strongly that his Cursillo experience in the Fourth Day group has been a key part of enabling him to do this. So with that, that's the John Mitchell story. I want you to take about 7 minutes, so until 10 minutes till by that clock back there, at your table, and just discuss with people at your table, what does the John Mitchell story tell you? What does the judge tell you about justice ministry in our work, in our families, in our communities? So take about the next 7 minutes till 10 up to discuss.